Welcome to the Cannabis Review. We've got a great show to you today. We've got the one and only Vera Twomey with us on the show. Hi, Vera. How are you keeping?
Hi, how are you doing, Owen? How are things?
I'm very well. For those who don't know Vera, she spent years campaigning for the introduction of medical cannabis to Ireland to help people with illnesses that it can help alleviate. And she's the tip of the spear at the moment in the industry over here, leading the fight. So it's great to have you on the show, Vera. And we kind of brought you on the show just to talk about the headlines. I think I've been sent maybe 20 WhatsApp messages so far already this morning with this headline about the medical cannabis program. As somebody who has a daughter who uses medical cannabis as a patient, can you tell us what it means directly for the patient? How good news is this? And should we be pushing for a lot more out of Stephen Donnelly?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the news that the Cannabis Access Programme is going to be funded is very positive, certainly. But I suppose the Cannabis Access Programme was announced more than a year ago, and by right, really, it should have been funded from the very beginning. However, it wasn't, and I think it's to be welcomed that Stephen Donnelly made it a priority to provide the funding for the programme now. There is a limited number of conditions within the Cannabis Access Programme. There's refractory drug-resistant epilepsy, side effects of nausea and vomiting associated with chemotherapy, and spasticity regarding multiple sclerosis as well. And this funding of the Cannabis Access Programme will mean that patients will be able to afford essentially the treatments prescribed by their consultants. But there certainly is a lot of other conditions out there, and therefore an awful lot of other people who require access to medical cannabis also. So therefore, I believe that, you know, you would be hoping that the Cannabis Access Programme would be broadened out to include these other people and their conditions, because I mean, time is of the essence for a lot of people. We know that from our own experience regarding seizure activity with our daughter Ava, and the extraordinary control that medical cannabis brought surrounding her seizures. And equally, if you have a chronic pain patient who could benefit from medical cannabis, the sooner intervention occurs, the less suffering for the patient, and the less time there is for them to deteriorate, and the less that they'll be able to recover more quickly with the assistance of medical cannabis in their daily regime, I think.
Yeah, I think it goes all the way to chronic pain to get the different treatments onto the list, because there's a number of patients that this plant can prove invaluable for. It's not the miracle plant that's going to solve the world, but the people it can help significantly. And it's about broadening that range of patients that can get access to it. One of the other things I wanted to talk to you about, and I think it's going to be a big thing from the business side of it, if you're looking at it, it seems to be that the products at the moment are extremely expensive. None of them are even remotely Irish grown. Would you like to see the cost of products come down and some Irish options come to the market?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. The cost of medical cannabis is extortionate at the moment. And particularly when you consider that the you know, in our circumstance with our daughter, the dose of her medication is weight dependent. So you know, the older the child gets, or if you're dealing with an adult, there is a substantial increase in cost then, you know, prescription by prescription as somebody puts on weight. It shouldn't be as expensive as what it is. And I mean, I think that it would be a fantastic industry for Ireland to be involved in. You know, it would create jobs. It would bring in tax for the government. It would provide patients with a lower cost medication. There are so many different you know, for want of a better word, strains of 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 improvement to the economy and to society by the introduction of medical cannabis. So yeah, it'd be wonderful if they would be allowed to develop the industry in Ireland, because I know for a fact I've talked to many people that are deeply interested in setting up facilities to grow and extract the oils within the country, but they haven't been able to get the go-ahead from the relevant departments.
Yeah, well, that's, I think, what seems to be happening from our experience at the moment, that, and it's almost understandable to a degree, Stephen Donnelly isn't an expert in cannabis. So for somebody to be putting their neck on the chopping block, they need to be catching up to date, I think, and they need to be educating themselves. And as you know, there's a myriad of different industries that are within this industry alone, like even the flavonoids, terpenes, cannabinoids. Education for a minister alone is going to take them a long time to catch up with. So we can understand one side of the coin with them, but they also need to understand that there's an opportunity, I think, here for Irish people in this industry. There's some global leaders who are Irish in this industry that we've interviewed so far, working in North America, and we're in charge of some of the top media companies. So I think there's a huge opportunity here for Ireland to have a next or Kerrygold or a Guinness of the cannabis industry if some of the regulations, the
opportunity is absolutely there. And you know, I mean, regarding any, let's say Minister Donnelly's developing knowledge surrounding the cannabis issue. I mean, there are so many people out there that he could speak to, you know, that have experience on the farming side of hemp, that have experience, you know, regarding medical products, who have personal testimonies regarding the benefit of medical cannabis. Like there's so much information out there. You know, if there was a little bit more cooperation about the issue, maybe we could make more progress. But you know, unfortunately, the cooperation has always been a difficult thing to obtain over the years, you know.
Yeah, no, it is understandable. And from the lobbying stuff that we've done so far, everybody's putting it on Stephen Donnelly's lap, from the Taoiseach to the Taoiseach to the Minister for Justice. It's all directed back to Minister Donnelly's the person responsible. But at the same time, he's only the Minister for Health for a year. You'd think some of them would take it along themselves to kind of help nuance or bring even a task force. We both know, I'm sure, 10 people who we could put on a task force to come up with a creation of a concept for the government to be able to implement and utilize properly. So I'm hoping to see that's the next thing that they realistically do. It'd make the most sense, and I think it would help educate the politicians themselves to have a team of people who have an understanding from extraction to distillation to growth to agriculture to sales to the manufacturing of food and beverage products. I think that's what's going to be required here, and hopefully they see sense and we have a good 2021 for this industry.
Absolutely, because it's not just a medical issue, it's an agricultural issue, it's a justice issue, it's a social issue, you know. And to make really strong headway on it, it's not just a Minister for Health that needs to be knowledgeable about the issue. There needs to be an acceptance within the Justice Department and within the Department of Agriculture as well, that there needs to be engagement and you know, discussion with, you know, the Hemp Association of Ireland, with all of these very, very knowledgeable groups, you know, for the departments to learn, you know, because I think sometimes that, you know, the department officials, whichever department they're in, are very, very knowledgeable in certain areas, but do find it difficult then when it comes to a situation like the cannabis issue, where it's new and they're not up to speed on, you know, exactly what needs to be done or what's the right thing to do. So everybody's learning. I mean, you know, even patients that, you know, when we began looking for medical cannabis for Ava 6 years ago, you know, we didn't know anything about cannabis, but we learned so much. And I don't think I ever came across a community of people who the willingness to share, the kindness, the sincerity, and just the openness to help. You know, I think that there's many people out there that would be delighted to engage and to assist in whatever way they could the departments in question to just get this sorted. You know, to make it easier for people, to just that people could have access to medication, or, you know, access to cannabis without fear, you know, without fear of prosecution. It would be wonderful, you know.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's access to homegrown products and the ability for entrepreneurs and innovators to come in and make Ireland a dominant force within this industry and create jobs while helping patients nationwide.
Absolutely. When we can do it, I know we can do it, because I always think that when at the beginning of our journey, when we started, they told us that, you know, access to medical cannabis was impossible, that getting a prescription for medical cannabis was impossible. And yes, it was impossible at the time, but we made it possible, you know, and we made it happen, and we did that together. And, you know, I think we need to stay together and be grateful for a step, you know, but that the fact that it's a small step, but at least it's a step, and that we can move forward, broaden this out. I think education for consultants is essential. I think that GPs should also be allowed to prescribe medical cannabis. I don't essentially think, although the consultants are specialized and experts in their own area, I don't think it should be. It should just be the consultants that are prescribing patients medical cannabis. Often it's your GP that you see more of and that knows you best, you know. So the education is essential for them, and you know, I hope that comes. I you know, it's just that the progress is always so slow, and for a lot of us, time is of the essence. I know that from our own situation. We were very fortunate to get access to medical cannabis for Ava when we did, but I do often, you know, I do often look at other little children that got access to medical cannabis earlier in their lives, and I just sometimes wonder, you know, if we'd got it sooner, you know, maybe things would have been easier for her, because the sooner the intervention with a medication that works and stops seizures, stops your pain, stops whatever ailment it is that you've got, the better it is for you. So I'm glad that there's progress, but I wish that it was happening at a quicker pace than what it is, you know.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. Well, I think we need to hold our feet to the fire still until we get access for a large number of patients. On behalf of the cannabis industry of Ireland, I'd like to take a moment to thank you for all the hard work you've done so far. I think you're one of the main reasons we're in the position that we are so far today. And of all the global guests that I speak to in the show, a lot of people have a lot of admiration for you. So a tip of the cap to you, and I hope Ava's keeping well. And for all of you who haven't read For Ava, the book that Vera released, it's a phenomenal book. I'd highly recommend it. It's available at Eason's and all good bookstores. And if you want to follow Vera, you can do on Twitter at Veras1. The handle's up there on the screen now. I'd highly recommend it. So thank you for coming on the show, Vera. I definitely hope to have you on the show again in the near future to have another chat, and have a lovely day.
I'd be delighted, and thanks so much for having us. Thanks very much, Joanne. All the best.
Cheers.
Bye now.